Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. For those who don't know me, my name is Freddie Watson. I'm the project manager for Blue Marine Foundation's Jersey project, but we're also kind of moving in the direction of expanding out to the wider Channel Islands as well. So Blue Marine Foundation is a marine conservation charity based in the UK, but we have projects all around the world, and our main mission is to see 30% of the world's oceans under or designated as marine protected areas. And our main aim in Jersey is to see 30% of Jersey's waters designated as MPAs, but really that 30% means to be close to certain types of damaging fishing, such as bottom-towed fishing gears. So today I'm going to talk to you about how we formed our kind of marine park campaign, kind of the different elements that fed into that. And this really started from about 2018 onwards. What that marine park campaign looks like, I'll come back to this later on, and then how that's where that has got to today. And this is kind of where it is, because the marine park campaign was something that we took ownership of, we campaigned for, tried to get it included into some form of policy, and eventually that led to be included into a Marine Spatial Plan, which is now taken over by the government. So the government now have ownership of that. But I'll talk to you a bit further about that in a bit. So we really started about in 2017, 2018, by funding a PhD, which looked at monitoring the effectiveness of Jersey's existing marine protected areas. So if you don't know, we have about 6.5% of our waters are currently designated as protected. And crucially, those protected areas prohibit the use of bottom-towed fishing gears. In fact, all mobile fishing gears. But they still allow static forms of fishing, such as rod and line, potting, netting, and hand diving. And this PhD was done by Sam. So we funded that PhD, and there are a few key outputs, especially 3 published chapters in scientific journals. And one of the key take-home messages was that the MPAs are performing, and there are significant differences between the areas that are protected and the areas that aren't protected. And those key differences are high levels of biodiversity, etc. And this is a really key piece of evidence, because it really forms a lot of the backbone to some of the marine spatial planning evidence that the government have gone through recently. Another form of research that we've been involved with is a blue carbon study. So this is the phase 1 report, which was done by Paul Chambers. It's a desk-based survey, and there are a few key outputs, but really it was an initial model to estimate how much carbon is stored in Jersey's waters and where and how much of it can be moved out of Jersey waters as well. So that kind of covers the carbon element of things as well. We also looked into the economic side of it, because a lot of the conversations we were having with various stakeholders in Jersey is, what's the economic benefit to having protected areas? And while we all know what those economic benefits can be, whether it's in food provisioning or nutrient cycling or things like that, we didn't really have the numbers to do that. So what we did is we took Jersey's habitats, we layered on top fishing pressure, and then we created a scenario by creating a map and some boundaries and trying to understand what happens if we remove a certain pressure from this habitat, how much does that habitat regenerate, and what kind of services does it provide, and what are the monetary values associated with those services. And those services might be increased food provisioning or increased ability to cycle nutrients and things like that. So another piece of evidence that another piece of research that we were heavily involved with was a survey on a reef system, really anecdotally biodiverse reef system to the southeast of our waters, southeast of the Minkies. This is a reef called Les Sauvages. It's basically a couple or 3 35 meter high pinnacles underwater. And they're absolutely magnificent. And we were told by a lot of scallop divers, recreational divers, that this area is incredibly biodiverse, but there was no kind of data to show it. So we partnered with Jersey Marine Conservation and Sea Search and kind of collated all evidence to date on this area. And we did about 2 years worth of dive surveys. And we found out that there were huge, very high levels of biodiversity. to an extent of being over a couple hundred times more biodiverse in those areas compared to just outside of it. So that was a really important piece of research that we did. So that kind of forms some of the one arm of our work in Jersey, is that research and gathering evidence. The other side of our work in Jersey revolves around supporting low impact fisheries. And over the last couple of years, we've really been focusing on working with the local hand dive scallop industry. So one thing that we did is we worked with recently we've worked with the diver to try and give the scallop diving industry a bit more of a voice, a bit more of a brand, and a bit more of an understanding from the local community, and try and get the local community to ask questions about their seafood choices. You know, if you go into a restaurant, if you see scallops being served, what we want people to do is ask, are these scallops hand dived? Where have these come from? Are they local? Things like that. And to try and increase one of the issues we came across in Jersey was that a lot of restaurants weren't serving hand dive scallops because there's a lack of consistency in the market, you know, and we understand that because in the winter, scallop divers can't really go out when the weather's bad because it's too dangerous, it's too cold, or things like that. So in order to improve that consistency, we wanted to work with some local divers and some local suppliers to help create, you know, a frozen stock of scallops throughout the winter, so that whenever they couldn't buy scallops fresh, they could buy well packaged frozen scallops throughout the winter. So we have worked with a couple of divers to try and we managed to get him a processing unit, a 5-star environmental health certificate. He managed to get HACCP accreditation, which allows him to access export markets into the UK and into France. And also we kind of created a brand as well called Jersey Hand Dived, and there's a social media page attached to that as well to help improve that kind of the reach of hand dive scallops. And this is kind of what the process looks like. From that's all the scallops caught in that day by Toby. That's it kind of packaged in a HACCP accredited unit. So it has all the right meets all the right health and safety requirements. It's labeled, it's dated. We know where they've come from, and it has all the branding, etc. Vacuum sealed, and it's sent off either fresh to restaurants or straight to be frozen. And here are a couple of the other divers that we worked with as well. That's Harry, Toby, and Bob. So another element of our work in Jersey revolves around education and outreach, and this is one of the best things about our job because it's not really contentious or controversial, which is really fun. It's a nice refreshing change. So one of the big pieces that we do is our snorkel trail education outreach program. And this revolves around our snorkel trail, which we worked with a few local stakeholders such as the Societe and Jersey Marine Conservation and a few other individual divers to try and understand where might be best to do a snorkel trail in Jersey. And the aim of the snorkel trail is really to act as a self-guided guide, so that there's signage down at Portlet Bay and at Bully Bay. So if you ever go there, you can understand where you can snorkel, what you might see when you snorkel, and also importantly, the safety information related to snorkeling. So don't snorkel at a certain tidal stage. Don't snorkel by yourself. If the weather's bad, don't go out. If in doubt, don't go out. Things like that. And the reason why we did this was to try and encourage people to get into the sea and really connect with it and foster that appreciation from a younger age or whatever age you really are. And one of the best parts of this program was utilizing the snorkel trails in an education program. So on the Monday, we would go into the schools and teach them about the marine environment. On the Wednesday, we would partner with Bully Bay Dive Centre and get the kids in a pool, and they would wear a mask, fins, and snorkel just to get them used to wearing that kit, and also to teach them how to snorkel responsibly and safely as well. And then we would take the kids out into the water, into the sea, and fully immerse themselves in Jersey's amazing marine environment. So this was aimed at years 5 and 6, so about ages 9 to 11, key stage 2 of Jersey's primary schools. We've probably reached about 2/3 of Jersey's primary schools over 3 years, and I think about 800 students so far. Is that right, Catherine? 850. Sadly, I don't get to do much of that anymore. Catherine does it on my behalf, so lucky her. So these three elements, the research, the supporting low-impact fisheries, the education and outreach, that really formed our three main parts of our campaign. And our campaign was this marine park campaign. We wanted to see 30% of Jersey's waters protected. And those are the main elements that formed that campaign. And what we wanted to see was these green areas are the existing protected areas, which prohibit the use of mobile fishing gears. And we really wanted to see that expanded out to this black dotted line to cover a lot of Jersey's shallow sensitive habitats, which are below 20 meters in depth. They consist of seagrass, shallow reef and sand, kelp, marl, sand mason worms, things like that. Really important habitats for supporting biodiversity, supporting nursery grounds for commercially important fish. And here's some of the statistics that are currently as it is right now. So at the moment, within those the protected areas we currently have, about 26% of our shallow reef with sand is protected, 15% of kelp forest is protected, 13% of marl beds are protected, 64% of sand mason worms are protected. Seagrass meadows are doing pretty well. Pretty much all our seagrass meadows are already protected. So there's a lot more we can do in terms of kelp, marl, sand mason worms, and shallow reef with sand, which is what we wanted to see. We want to see more of those sensitive habitats protected. And when the main kind of policy lever that we aimed for was the Bridging Island Plan in 2022. So we tried to get our marine park proposal included in that by having an amendment submitted. Unfortunately, it didn't go through. However, the government did come back with a very good compromise. And this compromise was to develop or include that wording to develop a network of marine protected areas. So that was a really great hook that we could work with. So we were really happy with that. And thanks to the minister at the time for including that. And after this Bridging Island Plan, this then kick-started the Marine Spatial Plan work that the government have done an incredible job in doing over the last 3 years, pretty much 2 years. So this has been a huge piece of work, and we've been been really pleased to see this happen. And then as a result of this Marine Spatial Plan, right now the government have recently released this updated map of where these proposed marine protected areas might be. We won't go into too much detail of this right now because I think Sam's going to do that a bit later. But one of the things that I want to get across is that it's this whole kind of process of how we formed our campaign and kind of how we try to get that into policy and action. And it's been a long journey, but it's been really great to see something like this change from something that's owned by a charity and an NGO, and then that ownership is almost taken over by the government, because ultimately we can't do anything. It's down to the government to actually action things and change things. So our next steps is that although this network of marine protected areas is pretty brilliant, I think it covers about 23% of our waters, and 23% is much, much better than 6.5%. One of our main concerns at the moment is that these areas of marl have been removed from the network there. So I think one of the things that we'll really be focusing on is trying to have those areas of marl included. And the government will have explained some of their reasoning within the Marine Spatial Plan as to why they've been removed. But I think what we want to do is start advocating for those areas to be included and start pushing for that again. So that's one of the things that we're really focusing on at the moment. And I think that's it for now. But I think you'll hear more about the Marine Spatial Plan in a couple minutes or so. But any questions, just come and grab me. Otherwise, that's everything. Thank you.